Hi everybody, this is Jamie from the Unlikely Homeschool, and you're joining me today for part 2 of my 2-part series, Why and How I Implement a 4-Day Homeschool Week. So if you missed part 1 from last week where I divulged my whys, be sure to go back to my blog and read up on those things, because today I'm only going to be sharing the hows. Before I get into some nitty-gritty of how I pull together a 5-day curriculum and force it into 4 days a week, I thought I'd just share 2 quick thoughts with you. Number one, I'm not going to be able to have an exhaustive explanation of everything that I do to pull together 5 days into 4 in this short video. And so I strongly suggest after you watch this video via YouTube that you go back to my blog, theunlikelyhomeschool.com, and read up on some of those additional thoughts that I'll include with a post, as well as some additional links. The second thing you should know is that I'm an eclectic homeschooler, and all that means is that I find value in a lot of different curriculum companies as well as a lot of different educational methodologies. We typically lean towards Charlotte Mason approach, and that's a living literature approach, but we also do a lot of independent project-based learning and unit studies and some unschooling, a little bit of textbooks, so we're very eclectic. And because of that, I'm going to be sharing a couple of different types of curriculum or different methods of education today. So hopefully one of these methods that I share will apply to you. So let's get started. I'm going to first start with some non-traditional curriculum. So my example for that is this Critical Thinking Can You Find Me book. I like to do a critical thinking book with each of my kids throughout the course of the year, but these types of books are just simply great books. They don't come with a lesson plan guide or a curriculum guide as far as I know, and so it's up to me as the mom to be able to schedule this and structure it throughout our year. But really that's a great benefit, because then I can take this book and easily fit it into my 4-day-a-week program. There's 100 pages in this book, and I don't know if you can see each page is just a simple little thinking story, and there's 100 of them. Now, if I school for 36 weeks, and that's a traditional American school calendar, 36 weeks, but I only school 4 days a week, you can do the math on that really quick and find out that we only school about 144 days out of the school year, give or take a few days for holidays or sick days or what have you. But let's just, for the sake of argument, assume we school 144 days. Now, if this book is 100 pages long, I can schedule this book a couple of different ways. I could decide to do this book a couple of different times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, and get it all in my 144 days. Or I could say, I'm going to start this book on the 44th day of school and do it every single day until the end of the school year at the 144th day. Or I could start this book at the beginning of the year and do it, read one of the stories every single day with one of my kids, and then we would end up having 44 days at the end of the school year where they don't have to do this book anymore. But the point is, it's up to me. I have the benefit of deciding how I want to schedule this book into 4 days. The next type of curriculum is a living literature curriculum, and a lot of living literature companies, if you buy like a box set of living literature style curriculum, have both a 5-day and a 4-day track. And it just so happens that this year we're doing Noeo Science, which is a living literature based science program, and in their little curriculum guide they have a 5-day-a-week schedule as well as a 4-day-a-week schedule. So all of the extra is done for you. You don't have to put a lot of brain power into it. All they've done is taken a few of the books out of the curriculum, and also taken some of those books and you read a little bit more every day than you would on a 5-day-a-week program. If you don't have a program that has done this for you already, and you're just pulling together resources from lots of different living literature books, then you can read as much as you want over the course of 4 days and call it good. There's nothing to say that you can't do that. The next type of curriculum is like a unit study. I pull together my own unit studies from different resources, and I talked a little bit about that on my 5 5 days of scheduling your entire school year videos. So if you'd like, you can go back and check those out. But for a unit study that I've pulled together myself, all I do is I gather up all the activities in a list that I would like to cover for that unit, and then split them up over the course of 4 days instead of 5 days. It's quite simple because the benefit is up to me to be able to decide how I want to do that. So that's kind of a blessing of pulling together your own unit studies. Lastly, I just want to talk about a traditional curriculum. And by traditional curriculum, I mean kind of like a textbooky approach to education. Here I have an example. This is the phonics program that I use for my second grader. This is Becca's Phonics Reading and Spelling Curriculum 2. And one thing you should know about a lot of traditional textbook companies, they're designed for classroom situations. And so obviously they're designed to have enough lessons to cover 36 weeks times 5. Now there's a couple of different things you can do to make this 5-day-a-week program into a 4-day-a-week program. Number one is I don't ever give my kids the weekly tests that are in these programs. I think it's unnecessary. Tests are designed to have a way to communicate with a parent and a school district on a child's abilities and their progression in the school year. Well, I'm the mom. I sit with them every day. I know what their progression is and what they're lacking and what they're excelling in. So I don't need a test to tell me that. Now that's simply for the elementary level. I haven't reached the high school level, so I might change my tune come high school. My state does not require me to keep weekly test records, and so I do not do that. If you live in a state like that, you'll have to obviously take a different route if you have to give the test every week. But most of these curriculum companies have their curriculums come with one test every week. So if you're trying to squeeze a 5-day program into 4 days, you could just opt to not do the test each week. If you decide to do the test, there's still a couple of different choices that you can do. You can double up on a lesson, one lesson every week. And here's an example of that. This is 2 lessons that were taken out of this phonics, Becca Phonics 2. Now, I don't normally write out the lessons like this. I just did this simply for your benefit. I have lesson 60 and all the things that will be covered in lesson 60, as well as lesson 61. So if I'm taking 5 lessons and trying to squish them into 4, I might just decide to take lesson 60 and lesson 61 and do them on the same day. But you can see right away that some of the things are review and are actually duplicated on both days. You're supposed to cover chart 12 on 60 as well as chart 12 on 61. So I'm going to erase chart 12 knowing that I don't have to cover it twice, I just have to cover it. As well as clue words. Clue word practices appear on both days, so I'm going to take that out, and I only have to do it once. I've put the new material with an asterisk, so you can see that there's 2 new concepts I'm covering on lesson 60, as well as 2 new concepts I'm covering on lesson 61. So I need to take out 2 of these items over here in order to be able to bring these over here and still cover the material in the same amount of time each day. So I'm going to bring these 2 new items over here, and I'm going to take out review of ABC order and review of contractions. Those are old material that I'm just reviewing, and I'm not worried about it because I know I'm going to review that material with my child again, in a few days or so. So I can now move these 2 things over here. Now you'll notice that I have prefixes as a review concept. Since it's only one short little activity, I might decide to leave it in. And so I'm getting a full day plus 1 review activity in on that 4th day, but I'm combining 2 lessons. So like I said, I don't normally write all this down. I just mentally go through those 2 lessons that I'm trying to combine and take out what is a duplicate and maybe take out a few of the review activities, knowing that they are just review, and I'm trying to squish them together to make 1 lesson. So you can skip the tests, you can double up on lessons. The last thing that you can do for these traditional curriculums is to just simply get rid of the guilt of trying to get through the end of the book. I'm not one of those mothers who get to the end of the year with maybe 10 or 15 lessons and say, oh, we have to school through summer so we can get through this curriculum. If we have 10 to 15, sometimes even 20 lessons that we haven't gotten to by the end of the year, I don't even worry about it. And this is why. If you've ever been in a classroom and used traditional curriculum in a classroom, you know that traditional curriculum is designed in groups of 3 or in thirds. The first part of a curriculum program is nothing but review from the previous years. Then the middle chunk, which is generally the larger chunk, is all the new material that the child needs to learn that year. The last chunk, and maybe it's not quite a third, maybe it's just a few weeks at the end of the school year. Those last few weeks of curriculum lessons are nothing but review from that year that you just had. And so if I don't get to those review lessons at the end of the year, those last, 24 lessons, I don't even worry about it because I know the following year we'll have review of that material again. So sometimes I take my curriculum and I look through it and I say, you know what, there's so much review at the beginning of the year. I know my child knows that. I'm just going to skip it. In fact, for this Phonics 2 curriculum, I started on lesson 25 because my son didn't need to review the alphabet, didn't need to review short vowel sounds. He had all those covered. So I didn't want to be redundant. So I started on lesson 25, which will take us through the end of the year, and we should be able to get through this book this year. Sometimes I might skip an entire lesson throughout the year knowing that's just all review. I don't feel like we need that much review. I'm just going to skip it. And again, sometimes by the end of the year, if I see that I have 2, sometimes even 3 weeks worth of lessons not covered, I don't even sweat it. I know that they'll get it again at the beginning of the year. We've been doing this now for 5 or 6 years, and my kids have never suffered or have never been behind by the following year, and yet I've never homeschooled through the summer to try to catch up on those lessons. So I just want to encourage you to get rid of that guilt about feeling like you need to get through the end of the book. Obviously, you want to get through the most of it and the majority, but if you only have a dozen or so lessons left, don't even sweat it. Just skip it and come back to it next year with next year's curriculum. So that is kind of how I pull together 5 days worth of curriculum into 4 days. Like I said, this isn't an exhaustive list, so please join me on my blog where I'll share a few more thoughts, but I hope that helps. Happy homeschooling.